There was no way back for the biggest band in pop history after Paul McCartney hinted that the Beatles would not be working together again. The biggest band in the history of rock and pop music was split apart on this day in 1970, when a self-interview by Paul McCartney, released to promote his eponymous first solo album, was seized on by the press as proof that he was quitting the Beatles. The question and answer statement, in which he hinted that the band would not work together again, was by no means unequivocal, but it led to newspaper headlines like the Daily Mirror's "Paul Quits the Beatles" and drove a wedge between him and his fellow band members. In truth, the band had been growing apart for nearly 3 years after the death of their manager Brian Epstein in 1967. They began working together in the studio as a unit less and less, each member focusing on their own compositions and using their bandmates as sidemen. The Beatles in their final days as the world's biggest pop group. Both George Harrison and Ringo Starr had walked out during sessions for the White Album, only to be coaxed back as tensions grew to breaking point. And in 1969, John Lennon had told the others that he was no longer a part of the band. Lennon was persuaded to keep his decision quiet, while a new contract was negotiated with Capitol Records in the US that year and beyond, as plans were made to salvage the Let It Be album, recorded more than a year before, in April 1970. His 3 bandmates then demanded that McCartney delay the release of his solo album in order to avoid a sales clash. Still smarting from a decision taken without his knowledge to allow producer Phil Spector to significantly alter his songs on Let It Be, he refused. Paul McCartney and wife Linda 2 days after the interview was published. With the other Beatles, particularly Lennon, incensed by his behavior, there was no way back for the band. By the end of the year, McCartney would file a suit in the High Court to dissolve their business partnership, bringing to an end the story of the 4 lads who shook the world.